Hello, everyone. Thank you. So many people hanging around, 70 people. Super. It was a fascinating discussion. I love the questions. Thanks, Milan. Yeah, some of you may know me of the books that I wrote before, Managing the Low, Managing for Happiness, Startup, Scale Up, Screw Up. It usually takes me about 1,000 hours to write a business book. I kept track of that. But with the most recent one, Human Robot Agent, I slashed that to 500 hours, and I think I did a better job than I did before because, well, as we just discussed, I now had a team. It was not a one-person thing anymore. I had four AIs around me, plus a couple of more specialist ones. Yeah, that was awesome. I try to practice what I preach and lead by example, as they say. Now, let's be honest here. I am not a tech expert when it comes to AI. I know the basics of deep learning and whatnot because I'm interested, but it's not what I talk about. I want to know what is the impact of AI on our ways of working, the psychological, sociological angle. That is what fascinates me most. How are we changing as workers, as managers, and so on? So I picked a couple of topics that you find in my latest book, Human Robot Agent, and it's basically random topics, but things that will interest an agile crowd most. And hopefully you have some questions at the end. One of the first things that I realized is that feel that I have been living in the future for years because I am a generalist. I am actually a software engineer. I studied in the university in Delft, the Netherlands, long time ago. But I like marketing, I like design, I like writing, I like speaking, finance, you name it. So I go broad. And that meant that I was never really the nerd or the geek on the software teams. So I quickly ended up in management positions because I was always looking around me and not deep into the code. Well, it turns out that this is actually a talent that more people should develop. The bigger the picture, the more unique the potential human contribution. Our greatest strength is the exact opposite of narrow specialization. It is the ability to integrate broadly. That is a quote from the book Range by David Epstein. And he basically makes the point, and I agree with that, that the more AI we have, the more we as humans bring added value in terms of connecting the dots, because the machines do a lot of specialist work for us. Like in my case, I use AIs to do the deep research into topics, to compare with scientific insights, to do the spell, style, and grammar checking, and so on. It's like I was the director of a team of specialists, and I had to connect the dots. So I was the generalist in our team, and needing to know enough in order to give all of them instructions. And there's actually evidence that says that most Nobel Prize winners these days are specialists in more than one domain. We call them M-skilled people. That's what the letter M is for in this picture. Because if you're just a T-skilled person, you're a specialist in one area and you branch out in one or two others. That is a term we've used for 15 plus years. But the added value for humans in the current times, in the future, is to draw the connections, as the Nobel Prize winners do, between different domains, and then it helps us to abstract ideas from one domain and then transfer them to another. They call that knowledge transfer. So we need to be M-skilled, to have expertise in multiple domains and temporarily, because the machines are taking over one after the other, specialization. So it is as if we are fleeing in front of the horde of AIs, one specialization after the other that we have to claim temporarily before the machines catch up, and then we move on again. I like that metaphor of the M-shaped person. And one article said that morphing from T-shaped to M-shaped is one example of how to use AI to improve our skill sets. And it might even be the very definition of what AI is doing to us. That it allows us to be temporarily specialists in areas and then move on. Now, it is important to still be specialists in some areas because if you're only a generalist, you would not be M-shaped, you would be dash-shaped, I suppose. And then you cannot do that knowledge transfer anymore. Then you don't have much added value. So Ethan Mollick wrote in his book, Co-Intelligence, the issue is that in order to learn to think critically, problem solve, and so on, we still need subject matter expertise. It's not like we just can give up entirely. I'm going to show you a model a couple of times. I will explain it near the end, but first I'm going to zoom in on 6 different flavors of uncertainty, as I call it. And the first flavor is the blue one, that is intricacy. I have a strong feeling that AI is making things more intricate around us. It makes the world increasingly complicated, more complicated than complicated. Maybe some of you are familiar with the Barney model, which is a competitor of VUCA. And Barney stands for brittle, ambiguous, nonlinear, and incomprehensible. Well, I borrowed that letter I, incomprehensible, but it didn't really fit in that in a part of the model. So Claude said to me, you could use inscrutable, it's shorter. So thank you, Claude. I used inscrutable to just show that some things are even more complicated than complicated. We don't understand them anymore. Take GPUs, for example, the chips that come out of NVIDIA factories. Not a single human understands anymore how they work. We need entire teams to make sense of this hardware. Same with generative AI. We need teams to understand how they work because it's incredibly sophisticated algorithms. So intricacy tends to increase in the age of AI is one of my hypotheses. And we come to the other 5 pretty soon, and then I will wrap it up and hopefully you have some fascinating questions for me. One thing I have been talking about this for a couple of years already is that we can be more agile than ever if we give up the idea of the static, stable team structure. Now, this is a bit of a hot topic, or it has been a bit of a hot topic in the last few years in the Agile community. Heidi Helfand has wrote a book on dynamic reteaming. We have seen examples with fluid Scrum teams. Willem-Jan Ageling has been experimenting with that in certain frameworks. The FAST framework, they play around with flexible teams. So I'm not the only one discussing this. The reason is that you can be more agile if you can reorganize your teams on the spot, depending on context. There's actually a benefit of having loose team structures. And in other industries, they've been working like that for ages. Take hospitals, for example. When someone is rushed into an operating room, they make do with whoever is on call on duty at that moment in the hospital, and they will just figure it out. They're specialists, hopefully maybe M-skilled people, trying to save a person's life. And they form a team on the spot. It is the same with fire departments. It is the same with airlines, and so on. And I think we're going to see that with in the software world as well. While human-to-human interactions are shaped by our cognitive limitations, writes this article, collaborating with AI systems opens up new possibilities that challenge our traditional understanding of cognitive constraints. Well, we had a traditional understanding of the traditional team structure. Don't change your team because that hurts. Yeah, that has always hurt because of cognitive load. if we change from one team, from one product context to another product context, that's just incredibly hard for the human brain. But if we can solve that with AI, then we can enjoy the benefits of having flexible teams. And they do that in hospitals already. Imagine a doctor moving from one operating room to another. That doctor does not keep all the information of all the patients in their heads. Why would they? It's all there in the machines. The previous medication, the previous treatments, the current metrics of heart rate, blood pressure, brain activity, you name it. It is there on the displays. And then the doctor coming in can do their thing after assessing what the situation is. Imagine an architect or a software engineer operating in a similar way with across multiple contexts with different products. The information is in the machines. Why put all of that in our heads? We progressively get to that situation is what I believe and what I have seen around me as what the experts predict. To meet customer demands and maximize revenue, the global workforce must function as a cohesive unit, necessitating the development of teaming skills among managers and employees, the ability to coordinate in the absence of stable team structures. There is a benefit if we are able to do that, and AI would help us to deal with that cognitive load penalty that we would be paying. That penalty will decrease. Of course, still, ideally, it would be nice if we stayed together as one team, but then you would miss out on certain opportunities on the speed at which you could respond to environmental changes, is the general idea. So to continue exploring or exploiting the full potential of AI, many leading companies have begun to embrace a new view of business processes as more fluid and more adaptive, and they are moving beyond sequential processes to more organic teams. So I've seen it multiple times in different books and articles, and I agree. So I highlighted the red part of this model, which is about modularity. AI is sort of pushing that out, making things or allowing us to go from tight to more flexible and even loose in terms of team structures, for example. In a moment, we'll see something similar with value streams happening. And that brings us a number of benefits, as you can imagine. Now, again, when it comes to value streams, I believe that perhaps I have been living in the future for a while, because I have had incredible difficulty simply drawing up the value stream of my work. I write blog posts, and then some of them might become e-learning videos, and they could end up as book chapters. Sometimes I begin with a book chapter and that later becomes a blog post. Sometimes I have an idea on stage when I'm speaking at a conference, and I think, oh, I should write about that tomorrow. So I have tried in the past to visualize that as a flow, and I gave up. I have just no idea how to how to
É
create
porque, velhinho,
one
ele
one
tem
flow.
horário, amor.
Thank you, Carla, for your insights. I have no idea how to visualize that with Kanban boards. I basically have multiple tiny Kanban boards that are all just 3 columns. That's it, and then things move from one board to another in a rather unpredictable way. Well, guess what? I have seen other people coming to a similar conclusion. In this book, Human Plus Machine, businesses need to shift from seeing processes as collections of sequential tasks. In the age of AI, processes become more dynamic and adaptable. Instead of visualizing a process as a collection of nodes along a straight line, it helps to see it as a network of movable, reconnectable nodes, or perhaps something with a hub and spokes. The linear model for process no longer cuts it. And I was reading this book and I saw this paragraph and I thought, what the heck? This was my problem for the last a couple of years. I was just unable to create a linear model for my process. And another fragment, rigid assembly lines are giving way to flexible teams of employees working closely alongside robots. These novel types of teams can continuously adapt on the fly to new data and market conditions. They are enabling companies to reimagine various work processes. This is driven also by the concept of AI being used for hyper personalization. I'm sure all of you know that Amazon and other web shops and Netflix and so on, they hyper personalize the customer experience. Everyone has their own homepage, depending on your previous behaviors. They were basically the ones who paved the way for other kinds of companies to start doing the same thing, whether it is in fashion, with Nike being able to produce shoes on the fly with custom designs that you made for your own shoes, and so on. We see an increasing amount of personalization, hyper personalization in the age of AI. That also means that the concept of the persona is steadily going to disappear, because the persona is nothing more than a prediction of what is the ideal customer, the same type of customer that you're going to offer the same kind of service to again and again. But what if AI allows you to offer different kinds of services to different kinds of customers? Maybe figure it out on the fly in the value stream. As part of the value stream, the AI agents will figure out what exactly does this customer need, what are their preferences, and then we give them exactly what they want. So that makes the value stream rather unpredictable. It could go left, it could go right. Actually, it has to be formed in the moment. Per work item, you could say, the value stream will emerge on the fly. And that's fascinating. I have no idea how to draw this. Hopefully, some people will figure that out. But when you combine all the facets of the coming wave, says Mustafa Suleiman in his book, The Coming Wave, from design, management, logistical capabilities of AI to modeling chemical reactions by quantum computing, etc., you get a wholesale revolution in the nature of production. So he predicts that in a number of years, we're going to see completely different ways of us producing things, not in a linear way, but in a rather non-linear way. So value streams become non-linear instead of linear. And that, wow, that is going to be fascinating. And I tie that to the green part of this model, scalability. It makes organizations much more scalable when you can serve many more kinds of people with the same process components, only they are organized on the fly, depending on context, depending on the preferences, the situation at that moment. I had a conversation with someone just last week, Simon Wortley, actually, Wortley Mapping. I met him just last week or 2 weeks ago in Berlin at the Agile Meets Architecture. We discussed this, and he said, yeah, the same thing basically applies to the whole supply chain, which is the value stream cross company. It's the same thing, only across multiple organizations. This is becoming increasingly unpredictable. And that, yeah, good luck to anyone trying to draw that. Fascinating stuff happening, but we're not there yet. I actually saw in the comments at some point someone writing about humans in the loop as part of as a question or a comment during our panel discussion. I try to be in the loop when I work with my team on blog posts or on videos or whatever I make as a content creator, because I not only want to stay involved, I also don't want my skills to deteriorate. And this is a big danger that some people don't see looming on the horizon. But many skills deteriorate if they are not practiced on a consistent basis. And when AI frequently replaces practice, the humans who are supposed to quality check the AIs lose the skill they need to evaluate AI effectively. So just imagine, as an example, pilots are required by law to keep training, to keep practicing their skills in flight simulators, because they're supposed to take over from an autopilot when things go wrong, when something happens where they think they need to intervene because they know better than the machine how to act in that moment. Now, translate that idea to self-driving cars. I see that Elon Musk has again promised that we will get self-driving cars next year. I think this is the 14th time that he has promised this, but never mind. Anyways, at some point we're going to get self-driving cars. But now the question is, should we require that people can intervene in what the car is doing? There are actually some laws, I believe, that are already in place that require people to be able to intervene in a self-driving car. But when those people are never driving anymore, they lose the skill to do that. If your job is to look at the tool go, in this place, a car, and then say whether the car is doing a good or bad job, and maybe take over if it does a bad job, you're going to have a problem, because it has long been known that people adapt to their tools and automation creates complacency. So people lose the skill to intervene in a self-driving car. Actually, the law could create more problems than it solves when we allow incompetent drivers to take over from a self-driving car that is actually on average better than the driver, than the passenger in that car. Now, translate that to software engineering. There are software engineers who now continuously let the co-pilots, whether it's Claude or GitHub Copilot or Cursor or whatnot, produce code for them, and then they do some bug fixing. Well, good luck with that, because if that's the only thing you're doing, you're going to steadily lose your skill of writing software and checking the software in the first place. That's dangerous. So workers that do not work with AI are going to find their skills obsolete quite rapidly. So yeah, of course, they should work with coding assistants, co-pilots, but not let them, not allow themselves to be replaced or de-skilled. Because yeah, it's imperative to work with AI, to stay employed, stay productive, and have up-to-date skills, as the pilots have, who have to be able to intervene. So in this case, I highlight the yellow part of this picture, which is about ambiguity. This is the fuzziness of the world around us. And I sense again and again that AI is making things increasingly uncertain in terms of the fuzziness. Is this right or wrong? Is this good or bad? Whether it is copyright law, where it is unclear whether machines are helping us to plagiarize artists or just helping us be more creative than ever, whether it is algorithmic management, a separate topic where entire management layers are replaced by AI. Some people are happy about that, some people are not. The results can be good or bad. Also in this case, should we allow people to intervene in self-driving cars or not? What are the consequences? It is all incredibly ambiguous. We just don't know, and that is a topic of increasing increasing importance, in my opinion. This ambiguity of the future. It requires a lot of discussion to create some clarity around us. Here's another topic that is dear to my heart, which is about the juniors getting replaced by AI. Well, we just heard the example of Scott. He said that his people in India are being replaced by AIs. It's a bit of the same thing. Um, I read one comment here, a bit sarcastic, was this article. Why invest in training in a young professional when AI can do the job faster, cheaper, and without the risk of a 2-week notice? I mean, you can go faster if you just cut the juniors out of the action and you deliver stuff of higher quality. The same was discussed in this book, The Skill Code by Matt Bean, which is entirely about this topic, basically. Matt Bean wrote, there's a compelling short-term case for cutting the novices out of the action when we implement new technologies. By virtue of the fact that they are still learning, we have to recognize that involving them increases risk and slows things down. And there's an immediate upside in quality and profit if we just let the experts do their thing. So anyone with an agile or lean mindset would say, yay, awesome, higher quality, optimization of the value stream. We deliver more in a short amount of time, and it is better than ever. Who doesn't want that? uh, Here you see one weakness of agile and lean. It is still sub-optimization because you're sub-optimizing the value stream for the customer. The customer will be delighted, but you kill the future prospect of your own organization because who is going to be the next expert next year if you cut the juniors out of the action? They're not learning. So good luck with the sustainability, the future prospect of your organization. It raises the question: who will be the next generation of doctors, firefighters, teachers, lawyers, and so on, who have to become experts themselves? It is short-term win, long-term loss. And the value stream, if you just measure the value stream, you don't see that effect, and it's very, very dangerous. There's another aspect that the book mentions. It says whether or not the experts recognize it, they rely on the newbies for their lack of expertise to break the trance that skill puts in them. So there's a thing called the curse of knowledge. The experts are cursed with knowledge, which means that they have their way of doing things. They have learned that this is the best way. They have ample evidence that this is the best practice. So that's the way they approach it. But juniors ask the stupid questions that are actually needed every now and then, which is called the beginner's mind, to pull the experts out of that curse of knowledge and make them aware that actually that best way of doing things may not be the best way of doing things anymore because the environment has subtly changed and they need to become aware of that. So on the surface, collaborating with novices slows things down and leads to more mistakes. That's a short-term loss, but you have a long-term win because the upside is that their silly questions and their sloppy work calls fresh attention to a new situation. And then the experts pay more attention to increased complexity. Fascinating book, really good insight, in my opinion. Excuse me. And I highlight the, the purple part of the model, which is reflexivity. Reflexivity is the system influences the observer influences the system. We influence AI, AI influences us. Juniors influence seniors, seniors influence juniors. Everyone is part of the same system, and there's this feedback cycle going on. And I have a feeling with AI, things get even more reflexive than we were used to. So I highlighted the purple part in that model. I have one more to go, and then we can have a look at the overview, and we go to the Q&A to address some of your questions if you have them. Now, I have seen a couple of times that people wrote, this is so awesome with AI doing part of my work. I now have more time for things that I never had time for. It could help with work-life balance or whatnot. This quote from a Work Trend Index from Microsoft says users say that AI helps them save time, focus on their work, on their most important work, be more creative, and to enjoy their work more. Yes, all thumbs up. But how are you going to use that extra time? As I've said before, I wrote my current book in 500 hours. That's half the time it normally took. And the ratings are great. So it doesn't seem like I lost quality there. My intention is to write the next one in 300 hours. I should be able to go faster while keeping quality as high as it is. So actually, instead of writing one book every 3 years, I should be able over time to write 3 books in 1 year. Just increase my output and the impact that I have in the world. I can, and maybe I should, because all my colleagues and competitors have access to the same AIs, the same machines. So they go faster too. They have more output. This is called the Red Queen race. The bar is being raised for everyone. So this book, Human Plus Machine, says we found that although 95% of employees we surveyed see positive value in work with Gen AI, 60% are anxious about their jobs and worry that Gen AI increases stress and burnout. And the funny thing is, I felt the same thing. I think I felt more stress in the last couple of months with my recent book than I had with the books before, just because the pace of change has gone up. I can do more in a shorter amount of time. So I just raised the bar for myself. It is clear that AI will significantly alter the linked concept of work and time, but what is not clear is how the extra time will be used. So I decided to highlight the orange part of the model, which is volatility. Things get more complex, maybe even chaotic, highly unpredictable. That is the sixth flavor of uncertainty in this picture. High volatility, a lot of things happening. You see that in the AI industry itself. I mean, Henrik just mentioned just earlier, the pace of change is just astounding. It is very unpredictable what happens next week, next month. I mean, DeepSeek came out of nowhere. When some people had been writing off Google, now they had a comeback, and suddenly Google has, with Gemini 2.5, the best AI models on the planet, until OpenAI beat them again. And these things happen on a weekly basis. It's just almost impossible to just keep up with what is happening in the world of AI. High volatility is how I call that. Summarizing it, I call this the wicked framework, 6 flavors of uncertainty, 6 reasons why things are uncertain. I call it wicked because of wicked problems. Wicked problems are the kinds of problems that are actually unsolvable, that do not have a defined end state, like corporate strategy is a wicked problem. You think you've done it, you think you have a nice strategy for the next few years, and then suddenly Trump raises 100% tariffs on your product. Well, good luck. Now suddenly you have to revisit what you're going to do in the next couple of weeks and months. Things like that. So employee engagement is a wicked problem. Organizing a children's party is a wicked problem. There are many wicked problems. This is just my visualization of the complexity of the world out there. I'm sure you're familiar with other models like VUCA, Barney, Conevan, you name it. There are plenty of them. Use any model that you see fit in your context. All models are wrong, but some are useful. I think this one is useful when you want to go a little bit deeper, want to maybe distinguish why things are uncertain for different reasons. Given the different initials of these 6 flavors, I call it Marvis, the wicked framework. Those are the initials of those six flavors. I find it a useful model myself. And I describe it in my book, Human Robot Agent, because there's one thing that I find important, which is where are we going with artificial general intelligence, and what is the role of the managers actually in this world? Well, if you look at how AI is being measured these days, all the benchmarks, they all measure AI on solvable problems, like the mathematical equations that almost nobody in the world is able to solve. That is the kind of stuff that is being used in most of the benchmarks to test how intelligent the machines are. But those are tame problems. No matter how complicated they are still tame because they're solvable. They're not wicked, because wicked problems are unsolvable. You're never there. They always remain problems. And my thinking is that management will increasingly dedicate themselves to the wicked problems, because the tame problems are all being delegated to the machines, like optimization of a route between two cities, of a delivery van or whatever. That's a tame problem. It has a solution. You use a machine for that. While in the past, humans did that kind of optimization work. Now managers will have to deal with the wickedness of the world. What do we do now that there are suddenly tariffs around announced or something like that? You cannot still simply delegate that to a machine and say, solve this for me before the end of the day. So management is about increasing about the wickedness of the world and the tame problems. That's what we have machines for. And then how do we measure artificial general intelligence? Well, AGI is usually most commonly defined as human level intelligence. So what is human level? In my opinion, human level is that what most humans can do, the kinds of problems that most of us are able to deal with, which is not solving mathematical equations. That's a tame problem. Most of us humans are, for example, able to raise children. Now, there's a wicked problem if you have one, raising children, my God. But we are evolutionarily wired to be able to raise children. That is, almost any human on the planet can do that. Not so well in some cases, but hey, we muddle through as parents. It is a wicked problem. So I think AGI should be using benchmarks where we somehow measure the wickedness of things. I sometimes tongue-in-cheek say we have AGI when a machine is able to take care of a child for 24 hours. Then we have AGI, not when it can solve very complicated mathematical equations. And I think that is going to take a while before the machines can take care of the wicked problems instead of the tame ones. For now, humans are pretty safe, in my opinion. But it does mean that we have to shift from knowledge to wisdom, because the machines have taken over data, they've taken over information, they've taken over knowledge. Knowledge work is a thing of the past. We mentioned it before. There's no need to bring knowledge to organizations as a coach or consultant. Forget it. ChatGPT can do that for you, or Claude or Gemini or any of the others. But you need to be the wise one. You need to be wise enough to tell people, hey, what you're doing here is optimizing the value stream. Have you thought about the future of your company? If you do not employ juniors and interns and whatnot, you're going to have a problem next year. You might not be realizing that right now. I see your software engineers using a co-pilot and so on a daily basis. Are you mandating that they keep training themselves, even if it was on simulators, so that they keep their skills up to date? That's the kind of stuff that I think is wisdom. And that's what coaches and consultants should be for, I think, to help organizations survive and thrive in the future, instead of just optimizing the current value stream, because that is what you can leave to Gemini and Claude and ChatGPT. So machines collapse the hierarchy so that humans can ascend it. Only together, humans and intelligent machines working collaboratively, we can bring the insights available from our data into the realm of wisdom. And I agree with that. Wisdom is the place to be in the near future for us humans. I write about all this stuff on my rebranded newsletter on Substack. I hope to see some people of you there. It's called the Maverick Mapmaker. I discussed the branding with my digital team. Gemini suggested the Contrarian Cartographer. I thought it was pretty cool, but it doesn't really roll off the tongue easily. So we turned it into the Maverick Mapmaker. I try to map things out for everyone. I'm a little bit of a maverick, if I say so myself. So all the articles are free, so I hope to see some of you there. I write a lot about my insights at the psychological and sociological level when it comes to AI. Like, for example, the AI code tsunami is an article that I just recently published, or the whole thing of going 10 times faster with 1/10 of the people. Well, good luck with that. You're going to have an issue. So that's my newsletter, and then finally, yeah, my book. I hope some of you are going to have a look at it. Human Robot Agents. You'll find it in any store. There are actually multiple versions. There's a ridiculously expensive full color edition. This is printing on demand. It's just ridiculous what they charge for full color. Not my fault. I'm sorry. So there's a much cheaper black and white version. I suggest you pick that one because the royalties are better for me with the black and white version. So hope some of you will pick up the book. And if you check the QR code, you will also see the download of all these slides. You get all of them. And you see a link to a couple of courses, a self-paced course and an online cohort that I start next week for those interested, sorry, next month for those interested having conversations with me on the impact of AI on ways of working. So check out the QR. Yeah, we have 15 minutes or something left for questions. Mian, back to you.
Thank you, Jurgen. And I I love the idea of wicked problems. I about 5 years ago, my book was titled "Wicked Leadership," and I was always fascinated with this idea. But wicked, and like I've had you on as a guest on my podcast, and we've talked about complexity management. And I love how you've taken complexity management and integrated AI into it. And really, what I got from this, and I will read your book, is that AI will help us with complexity. And the way that you describe value streams is, I think, how a lot of people see it as linear process. But I think if you talk to anybody that's expert in understanding value streams or understanding organizational design, it's not a linear thing. It's more like a network, like you said.
Yeah.
So really kind of aha moment I had is that AI will help us deal better with complexity. And those same problems or easier problems, yeah, it'll help us automate. But the general theme so far today has been, yeah, but complexity needs people
Yeah.
and people to understand it and contextualize, at least so far.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think a nice example, nice metaphor is global logistics with ships going around the globe. You can look at the patterns of how the ships go from one harbor to another, and then it's basically probabilistic, right? You can see that usually they take that route because it is the fastest, but if something happens, they have an alternative route that will be more expensive, etc. All of that is there's data that these companies have in order to predict, in order to manage, etc. So the linear value stream is per ship. There's per ship there is a linear route, but over all the ships there's a network, and then the data, the AI can tell us, okay, what is happening actually across all those work items, across all those ships, which routes are usually taken, which are the exceptional routes, what are the preferential routes depending on customer, etc., etc. That is very different from having one Kanban board where everything follows exactly the same path.
And that's a human tendency, I guess, to simplify things, to treat wicked problems as tame problems. And uh, I guess Dave Snowden with the Canadian framework has tried to give us some language to make sure we don't do that, or at least be aware of these different. Let's maybe see if anybody has questions for Jurgen. There were a few I couldn't. They were related to what you were saying, but if you have a question, just post it in a chat or go off mute and ask Jurgen.
Any hands going up? Or do I have 15 minutes off early?
We're not gonna get you. I have
Ah,
a
there
question,
we are.
but
Ava, you saved us. Thank you.
I don't know. But first of all, thanks for the talk. You were talking about the wicked problems, and like you said, like the goal would be like to have managers working on wicked problems instead of, let's say, automation or easy tasks.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, like, how can we um yeah, cheer up managers to work on wicked problems and not maybe thinking about like the thing you also shared with, yeah, let's save the juniors, we can use AI, so cutting costs and cutting workforce and not offering this available or this opportunity to build up skills and wisdom to work on wicked problems. So what do you think, what is your vision, like how can we uh, may like raise the interest of managers in working on wicked problems?
Well, good question. I try to write a book on that topic. I mean, not trying to promote it here in any way, of course,
Yeah.
but that is my contribution. Yeah, that's the golden question. How to get them to read it or how to get them to listen? Because yeah, let's face it, some just see AI as a cost-cutting exercise, but that is short-term thinking, something we have not discussed before. But as Henrik and Scott has have pointed out as well, people need to experiment. They need to play with AI. They need to figure out how this can make their work better and how they can come up with innovative ideas for better experiences for customers. They're not going to do that when they see that AI is being used to replace them. I mean, when you come up with a great idea that makes the value stream faster, and then the conclusion of AI is, okay, great, then we don't need you anymore. Nobody else is going to be innovative from that point forward, right? That is a big danger. So I think there should be a promise of management that nobody's getting fired. Maybe you saw that, but last week there was this big thing of the memo that Tobias Lüth, the CEO of Shopify, sent around to his
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
employees, saying that, well, nobody got fired, but we're not hiring anyone unless you can prove that we cannot do this with AI. I thought that was a good position to take. So he basically he gave people permission, or he mandated that people should experiment and play and use AI. He said, we're not going to fire you, don't worry, but there's no reason to hire any more people if we just can delegate to machines and just reinvent your job so that you move part of your job, the tame part of your job, the problem solving, to the machines, so that a more bigger part of your work hours is spent on the wickedness of the world. And that's where humans add value, as I said before. But yeah, how I try to write a book, but maybe other people have other suggestions.
Okay. But thanks.
Thank you too.
Well, I think the underlying message of your book, at least the way that I interpret it, just from what you said here, is helping people understand how to better deal with complexity. So I think if I reflect back on leaders and people, I think AI will help people develop confidence and have more contextualized understanding of what's going on so they can deal with wicked problems. Because if you look at typical person in organization or leader, they didn't have access to this information. Now they have AI to almost as a consultant 24/7 that you can ask questions, especially if those are trained. Those AI models are trained on your company and on your context. That's going to, I think, give people better tools to deal with wicked problems, which will make better organizations, better products. So,
Yes.
I
And what I mean, I've seen it multiple times. People much smarter than I am, Reid Hoffman and Fei Li and so on, is saying this is the world has never been as uncertain as it is now, and not just because of AI, but also other technologies, whether it's quantum computing, 3D printing, biotech, you name it. And there's going to be convergence of technology where they are actually catalyzing each other. We cannot even predict what happens when you combine blockchain with AI, with quantum computing, the things that are going to emerge in the next decade. It's going to blow us away. So that is highly uncertain. The only thing that I try to do is offer 6 flavors of uncertainty that I saw, like modularity and reflexivity and intricacy, because that helps me think. Models help me think. That's why I draw them. They help me do better thinking. And then it's up to managers to navigate their ships in these highly uncertain waters. But I'll be honest, I have been a manager in the past, and a significant part of my work was tame problems. It was just optimization issues, whatnot, decision making based on information. A lot of that can be delegated to the frontline workers if they simply have the sufficient data available and good AIs to help them with decision making. There's no need for middle management anymore. So we do see that quite a lot of middle management positions are going to disappear, and the ones remaining will mostly be doing wicked stuff like happiness of people, employee engagement, customer engagement, stuff like that, in an increasingly uncertain environment.
Yeah. Leo here has a question around reteaming, and this kind of follows up on what you just said about managers, and I guess reteaming in context of maybe what has happened in Tesla and what Heidi Helfeld has written and talked about reteaming.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Leo's question around reteaming and AI?
Well, the issue is, or the thing to understand is the cognitive load problem. The reason why airlines standardize on as few types of planes as possible is to allow for reteaming, so that it doesn't matter which plane the crew boards, because it's the same as the previous one that they had. It would be quite problematic if they had 25 different types of planes. So that is how they solve it. Doctors solve it by having all the information available on dashboards. I mean, look at any operating room, and there's lots of machines with information. They're offering everything in the moment, in context, about what is the situation. Then you reduce cognitive load. So now we have to figure out, how do we do that in software? If we just moved from one project or one product to another, what would be necessary for us not to confuse everyone and not to waste all of their time with that context switch? What is necessary for them to do this easily? Well, I'm not a software engineer anymore, but I can imagine that we need AI to show the actual current architecture of the software according to the current version of the code, not something that someone documented last year that is not up to date anymore. AI can do that. An overview of the last changes and what happened after the last changes, etc. If we can visualize that with a dashboard in a way that is easy to understand by any architect or software engineer, you're tackling the cognitive load issue. And then you lower that barrier, and then you can benefit from that switching and take advantage of it.
Great. Well, I think we're at time. We got 4 minutes before
Can
Scott.
I ask a
Uh,
question or
it's
can
up
I
to
ask?
Jurgen. Where
Who's that?
is it okay to for Hessa to ask one more question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have see earlier in this presentation that you said this AI must replace the juniors. So do you think this is happening right now, or it's just like a theory?
No, it's already happening everywhere. It is happening in law firms where the junior lawmakers are being replaced by AI because previously the juniors created the contracts and now and the seniors reviewed them. Now the AIs are making the contracts. It's the same in accountancy where the juniors did the bookkeeping. Now the AIs do the bookkeeping and the seniors use AIs instead of the juniors. Someone at the after a keynote session half a year ago at a conference said the same thing about software engineering. She said, I lost my job as a junior because they now use Copilot, the seniors, instead of the juniors. So this is a problem. The whole book that I mentioned, the skill code, is about this problem that has already been seen across many different industries, not just software and law. Even the doctors, it is described in hospitals, doctors use robots instead of juniors. And so the juniors are cut out of the action. So this is a pervasive problem, and we basically have to rethink the career path of juniors. So that, like, for example, take accountancy. I have worked with multiple accountants firms, and I always talk with the senior accountant, which is ridiculous because I'm a one-person company and my business couldn't be simpler. But I always talk with the senior. And then the junior does the bookkeeping. This doesn't make any sense. The juniors should get the smallest clients with the least amount of risk. I should be talking with a junior accountant because that should be their entry point to deal with the least important customers. That's where they learn their tricks. And then the senior should be behind them, watching what they do, giving them advice. And then progressively they can handle the bigger and bigger customers. But that is an entirely different kind of career path that traditional organizations are not wired to have at the moment. So HR has an important job to rethink how career works for the juniors in businesses, whether it is software engineers or lawyers or accountants.
You mean instead of juniors doing the dirty work, they can just handle uh, less more important clients, right?
Exactly. That is very well
And the
phrased. Yeah.
AI can handle the dirty work,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. Like, for example, I started out as a speaker 15 years ago. I didn't start with carrying the suitcase of a senior speaker. I didn't start with creating the slides of the senior speaker and then let the senior go on stage. No, I went on stage. I made the slides. I did everything, including sending the invoice. But it was very, very small events. I did not go on a stage of 2,500 people. I got there 10, 15 years later when I earned the respect and so on that I finally could call myself a senior speaker, so
I
to
think
speak.
also the practice of pairing is going to be essential. Like just the idea of pairing people up and like having that. But we're at time.
Yep,
Scott is ready, I believe.
absolutely.
So thank you, Jurgen. This was great, and
Thank you too.
again for your time. Um,
Thanks everyone for joining.